Ladies and gentlemen, when we speak of love, we often think of it as something that sweeps us away in a single, overwhelming moment, an emotion that takes over and we are helpless in its grasp. But if we look at love through the lens of Stoic philosophy, we come to realize that true love is not born from mere feeling or a fleeting attraction. Rather, it is a deliberate, daily choice, one that grows and strengthens through action, commitment, and understanding. The power of daily choice is one of the most profound principles of Stoic philosophy, and it lies at the heart of what it means to live a life of virtue. Stoics teach us that our character is not shaped by a single grand event, but by the accumulation of small, intentional decisions we make every day. These choices determine the kind of person we become, how we respond to life's challenges, and how we engage with others, especially in relationships. In the context of love, this idea becomes even more powerful. When we talk about choosing someone every day, we are acknowledging that love is not an emotion that simply falls upon us in a dramatic and uncontrollable way, but a series of decisions made consciously and consistently to act in a manner that aligns with our values. Love, in this view, is not something that just happens to us. It is something that we actively nurture through our choices, our actions, and our commitment. Each day presents an opportunity to choose, once again, the person we love, not just in the easy moments of affection and closeness, but also in times of difficulty, disagreement, and vulnerability. Consider the Stoic concept of duty, the idea that we have an obligation to cultivate virtue regardless of external circumstances. This concept can be applied directly to love. Just as we would not abandon our commitment to virtuous living in the face of hardship, we do not abandon our love because of life's inevitable ups and downs. In every moment, we have the choice to act in line with our highest values, and this includes the choice to love consistently and with intention. In a sense, love becomes an ongoing, purposeful practice, a daily decision to choose the other person, to be patient with them, to listen attentively, and to grow together. The Stoics also teach us that we have control over our own responses, even when we cannot control external events. This principle is essential to understanding how daily choice shapes our relationships. We may not always be able to control the way our partner behaves or feels, but we can control how we respond to them. We can choose to be kind, to remain calm in the face of frustration, to forgive when necessary, and to offer support when they need it most. Each of these responses is a choice that requires effort, awareness, and commitment. Through these daily choices, love is deepened and strengthened. One of the most striking aspects of Stoic thought is its emphasis on self-mastery. To be able to love in a meaningful, enduring way requires self-mastery over our impulses, our fleeting emotions, and our reactions. For example, it's easy to love someone when everything is going well, when the connection feels effortless and joyful. But the true test of love comes when things aren't so simple, when there are misunderstandings, disagreements, or even moments of doubt. It is during these times that we have the opportunity to choose love with greater intention. We may choose to approach our partner with empathy instead of judgment, to communicate openly rather than withdraw, to show understanding instead of frustration. In this way, love is an exercise in discipline, not in a rigid, controlling sense, but in the sense of cultivating a way of being that is consistent, thoughtful, and grounded in virtue. It's easy to give in to anger, to let resentment build up, or to distance ourselves when we feel hurt. But true love, as Stoicism teaches, involves resisting these impulses and choosing to act in ways that align with our deeper values of kindness, respect, and understanding. The power of daily choice also means that love, as an ongoing commitment, does not rely on perfect circumstances. Life is unpredictable, people are complex, relationships will face challenges, yet each day offers the opportunity to choose, again and again, to prioritize the other person, to love them through their imperfections, and to grow together in the face of adversity. This is the essence of what it means to choose someone every day, recognizing that love is not static, but a living, breathing practice that flourishes through consistent, intentional decisions. In the end, the Stoic approach to love reveals its deepest wisdom. It is not enough to simply love someone in moments of ease or joy. True love, in its most meaningful form, is a series of conscious, deliberate choices made day after day in times of both happiness and hardship. Through these choices, we not only strengthen our relationships, but also build the foundation for a life well lived, guided by virtue, and sustained by love. The impermanence of emotions is a central teaching in Stoic philosophy, and one that offers a profound understanding of how we can approach love with greater depth and stability. Stoics emphasize that emotions, like all things in life, are transient, born out of our perceptions, thoughts, and judgments. They ebb and flow, rising with the circumstances and falling with time. In this sense, love, as an emotion, is no different. It is a natural human response, often intense and overwhelming, but subject to the same fluctuations as other feelings like joy, anger, or sadness. Understanding this impermanence allows us to shift our perspective on love, not as something fragile and fleeting, but as a deeper, more enduring commitment that transcends the fleeting nature of emotion. When we look at love through the lens of Stoicism, we are reminded that emotions are not inherently good or bad. They are simply responses to external events and internal beliefs. The Stoics believed that by cultivating reason and wisdom, we could gain mastery over our emotions, preventing them from dictating our actions. Love, in this framework, is not something to be passively experienced, but something to be actively chosen and maintained, regardless of the emotional highs and lows that may come with it. The decision to love, then, is not based on how we feel at any given moment, but on a commitment to act in a loving way, to show care and kindness even when the emotional intensity fades. This view of love offers a sense of freedom. If we allow our emotions to be the sole determinant of how we relate to others, we might find ourselves constantly swept up by the tides of joy, frustration, or disappointment. But if we recognize that emotions are impermanent and that our true power lies in our ability to choose how we respond to them, we free ourselves from the tyranny of temporary feelings. In a relationship, this means we don't wait for love to feel perfect or to be constantly exciting. We recognize that love, much like other virtues, requires intention and effort, especially when the initial intensity of infatuation begins to fade. The recognition of emotional impermanence also helps us embrace the idea that love is not static, but dynamic. It will shift, evolve, and change over time, and that's entirely natural. In the early stages of a relationship, love may feel all-consuming, filled with passion and excitement. But as time goes on, these intense emotional experiences may become less frequent. This doesn't mean that love has disappeared, only that it has transformed. The Stoic view suggests that real love doesn't depend on the maintenance of emotional highs. Rather, it is grounded in deeper, more stable qualities like respect, loyalty, and understanding. The commitment to choose love each day remains constant, even when the emotional intensity fluctuates. In Stoicism, it is understood that our thoughts shape our emotions. If we choose to view love through a lens of attachment to fleeting feelings, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment when those feelings inevitably change. But if we view love as a practice of virtue, something we cultivate through reason, wisdom, and understanding, we are not dependent on the fleeting nature of emotion. Instead, we focus on the actions that reinforce our love, the acts of kindness, the words of affirmation, the patience, and the forgiveness that make love resilient and enduring. Furthermore, accepting the impermanence of emotions allows us to approach our partners with greater empathy and patience. We understand that they too will experience the rise and fall of emotional states, and we are less likely to be disturbed by the natural ebb and flow of affection or closeness. In relationships, it's common to feel that love is fading or that passion has diminished, especially in long-term partnerships. But the Stoic response to these thoughts would be to view them not as evidence of failure, but as natural cycles of human experience. We don't need to panic when our emotions change. Instead, we can choose to act with love and integrity, nurturing the relationship even in the absence of constant emotional intensity. Ultimately, the Stoic perspective on love teaches us to move beyond the notion that love is a simple, static feeling. Love is a complex, dynamic force that must be tended to and cultivated. It is a commitment we make not because we are constantly flooded with romantic emotions, but because we recognize the deeper value in acting lovingly and intentionally, regardless of how we feel in any given moment. By embracing the impermanence of emotions, we free ourselves from the pressure to feel in love at all times and can instead focus on choosing love day in and day out with wisdom, grace, and resilience. Love, when seen through the lens of Stoic philosophy, is not a passive experience but an active practice, one that requires deliberate effort, mindfulness, and a continual commitment to personal growth. In Stoicism, virtue is not something that is achieved once and for all. Rather, it is a constant exercise in aligning our actions with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. The same is true for love. Love, in its truest form, is not just an emotion that we feel, but a practice, an ongoing decision to choose the other person, to act in ways that reflect our highest values, and to nurture the relationship over time. In many romantic relationships, we may begin with a sense of passion or excitement, drawn together by attraction and a shared connection. But over time, those initial feelings can fade, or the challenges of daily life can create distance. This is where the Stoic approach becomes especially powerful. Love, in the Stoic sense, is not contingent on constantly feeling in love or being swept away by emotion. Instead, it is about making the intentional choice each day to show up and practice love. This might look like offering patience when there is disagreement, listening with empathy when the other person is struggling, or being supportive in ways that promote the growth and well-being of your partner. At the heart of Stoic philosophy is the understanding that we cannot control everything around us, especially the emotions and actions of others, but we always have control over how we choose to respond. In love, this principle is vital. There will be days when emotions feel muted, when your partner seems distant, or when external stressors weigh heavily on both of you. These are the moments when love as a practice becomes most important. The act of choosing to love in those times is not about forcing ourselves to feel something we do not. It is about consciously deciding to embody the qualities of love, patience, kindness, understanding, and support, even when the emotional intensity is not as strong. Choosing love each day also requires a certain level of self-awareness and personal responsibility. To truly practice love, we must first understand ourselves, our own needs, desires, and emotional responses. The Stoics emphasize the importance of self-examination, of understanding our internal motivations and reactions. In the context of love, this means recognizing when our own fears, insecurities, or desires might cloud our ability to be present with our partner. When we cultivate the ability to step back and reflect on our own emotional landscape, we can choose to act from a place of clarity and compassion rather than being driven by impulsive feelings or self-centered desires. Additionally, love as a practice involves an ongoing commitment to mutual growth and improvement. Relationships, like any area of life, require work. They are not static or perfect. They evolve as both partners change and grow. Stoic philosophy teaches that we should strive to improve ourselves every day through the development of wisdom, courage, and other virtues. And love, in the same way, requires ongoing development. Practicing love means being open to learning and adapting, not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of the relationship. It involves supporting your partner's growth, challenging each other to become better versions of yourselves, and remaining open to change and evolution, both as individuals and as a couple. Moreover, love as a practice requires a sense of gratitude and mindfulness. The Stoics believe that we should practice gratitude for what we have, not just what we wish to have. In the context of love, this means appreciating your partner for who they are in the present moment, rather than focusing solely on how you wish they would change or improve. It also means recognizing the value of everyday moments, small acts of kindness, shared laughter, quiet conversations, as these are the building blocks that sustain a long, lasting relationship. Too often, we get caught up in seeking grand gestures or dramatic moments, but the true depth of love is found in the ordinary, daily acts of care and attention. Practicing love, then, involves being present and appreciative of these moments, nurturing the connection that you share. In the end, love as a practice in Stoic terms is not about seeking perfection or expecting to always feel swept up in passion. It is about showing up every day, making conscious choices to act with virtue, and being willing to invest in the relationship through your actions, not just your emotions. It is an ongoing commitment to cultivate care, understanding, and support, even when life is challenging or the initial intensity of attraction wanes. By embracing love as a practice, we free ourselves from the uncertainty and unpredictability of fleeting emotions, grounding our relationships in the steady, enduring qualities that form the foundation of true and lasting affection. Love, in its most profound and enduring form, is not simply a feeling or an event that happens to us. It is a conscious, daily practice. This idea aligns closely with Stoic philosophy, which holds that the key to living a virtuous life is in the continual exercise of wisdom, self-control, and emotional resilience. In relationships, this philosophy teaches us that love, too, is not something that is passively experienced, but something that must be actively cultivated. Love is an ongoing choice, one that involves intentional acts of care, kindness, and commitment, especially during the moments when emotions fade or when challenges arise. When we say that love is a practice, we are referring to the idea that love is not defined by grand gestures or the intensity of emotions that may accompany the early stages of a relationship. These initial feelings of attraction, excitement, and infatuation are temporary, and while they are beautiful in their own right, They are not the foundation upon which a lasting relationship is built. True love, according to Stoicism, is rooted in the conscious decision to act in alignment with virtue, patience, understanding, generosity, and respect. It is not about waiting for feelings to dictate how we should behave, but about choosing every day to act lovingly even when the emotions are not as intense or when we are faced with difficulties. In Stoic thought, we are reminded that we do not control the external events around us, nor do we control the emotions or behaviors of others. What we can control, however, are our own responses. This is where the idea of love as a practice becomes especially meaningful. When we love someone, we cannot expect them to always act in ways that meet our expectations or to always mirror our feelings. However, we can choose how to respond. Love as a practice means choosing to respond with patience instead of frustration, with empathy instead of judgment, and with understanding instead of resentment. It is a deliberate act of nurturing the relationship through our actions, regardless of the emotional state we may be in at any given moment. This approach to love demands self-awareness and emotional regulation. To practice love, we must first know ourselves, our desires, our triggers, and our capacity for patience and empathy. The Stoics teach us that the more we understand our inner world, the more we can master our emotional responses and align our actions with our higher values. In love, this means that when we feel hurt or frustrated, we do not allow these emotions to control our actions. Instead, we choose to pause, reflect, and act thoughtfully. Love as a practice requires this kind of emotional discipline, where we continually check in with ourselves and choose to act with compassion, even when it might not be the easiest path to take. Furthermore, love as a practice is not just about what we give in moments of calm or happiness. It is about the decision to show up even when things are difficult. In every relationship, there will be times of challenge, misunderstandings, disagreements, or external stresses that put a strain on the connection. In these moments, love is not a passive feeling that takes over. It is an active choice to support, to forgive, to communicate, and to work together toward resolution. The Stoic approach teaches us that hardship is an inevitable part of life, but how we respond to it is what truly matters. Similarly, in love, it is during times of struggle that our commitment to the relationship is most clearly demonstrated. Practicing love means facing these challenges head on with the resolve to grow together rather than allowing them to tear us apart. Love as a practice also requires mutual effort. It is not one person continually giving while the other takes. Rather, it is a shared commitment to growth, understanding, and mutual support. In a Stoic sense, both partners in a relationship are responsible for cultivating virtues like respect, empathy, and kindness, not just in the moments when it feels easy, but in every moment without exception. Just as a Stoic works daily to cultivate wisdom and virtue, so too must a person in love actively work to maintain the health and strength of the relationship through consistent, intentional actions. Love is not a passive experience, but an active, ongoing exchange of care, attentiveness, and commitment. Ultimately, the idea of love as a practice means recognizing that love is not dependent on external circumstances or fleeting emotions. Instead, it is a choice, a decision made repeatedly each day to prioritize the other person and to engage with them from a place of care and virtue. It means recognizing that the highs and lows of emotions are natural and inevitable, but the practice of love remains steadfast regardless of how we feel. By viewing love through this Stoic lens, we can free ourselves from the pressure to always feel in love, and instead focus on the deeper, more enduring actions that sustain a relationship over time. Love, in its truest form, is a lifelong practice, one that requires intention, self-awareness, and a commitment to growing together, regardless of the emotional fluctuations that may come and go. In Stoic philosophy, one of the most central and transformative concepts is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. The Stoics believed that the key to living a peaceful, fulfilling life lies in focusing our energy and attention on the things we can control, while accepting with equanimity the things we cannot. This idea is incredibly powerful when applied to relationships, especially in the context of love. In any romantic connection, we cannot control how the other person thinks, feels, or acts. We cannot force someone to love us in return, nor can we dictate their emotions or behavior. But what we can control is our own actions, our own responses, and the choices we make in every interaction. In love, this principle is particularly important. Often, we may feel as though our happiness and emotional well-being are dependent on the actions of our partner. We might find ourselves hoping that they will behave in a certain way or express their love in particular ways. However, Stoic philosophy teaches us that by focusing on controlling our own responses, we liberate ourselves from the burden of trying to manage or manipulate another person's feelings. We shift the focus from trying to change the other person to cultivating our own capacity to love, act virtuously, and respond with grace, no matter what external circumstances arise. The realization that we have control over our own actions, but not the actions of others, helps us to understand that love is not about imposing our will on another person. Instead, it is about showing up as our best selves, contributing to the relationship with integrity, respect, and care. It's about choosing, again and again, to act in alignment with our values, whether that means offering support during difficult times, giving space when needed, or simply being present and attentive in everyday moments. Love is not about manipulating someone to meet our expectations, but about consciously choosing to embody love in our actions, regardless of how our partner behaves or feels at any given time. This Stoic approach also invites us to approach relationships with a sense of acceptance. While we might desire certain outcomes or behaviors from our partner, the Stoics encourage us to accept what is outside our control without resistance. We must accept that the other person may not always meet our expectations or act according to our desires. This doesn't mean resigning ourselves to dissatisfaction or passivity, but rather understanding that we cannot shape the thoughts, feelings, or actions of another person. We are only responsible for our own responses, and it is in these responses that we can find peace and fulfillment, regardless of external conditions. One of the most freeing aspects of this mindset is that it removes the pressure to control the dynamics of a relationship. When we focus on controlling our own thoughts, words, and actions, we no longer feel burdened by trying to fix or change our partner. We are free to love them as they are, without trying to mold them into a version that fits our own desires. This shift in perspective can be transformative in a relationship, as it fosters an environment of mutual respect, where both partners feel valued for who they truly are, rather than for who the other person wishes them to be. Moreover, when we recognize that we have control only over our own actions, we become better equipped to navigate the challenges that inevitably arise in relationships. There will be times when misunderstandings occur, when feelings are hurt, or when external pressures strain the connection. But instead of focusing on what the other person did or didn't do, we can turn inward and ask ourselves, how can I respond in a way that aligns with my values? How can I show up as a loving and compassionate partner, regardless of the circumstances? By shifting our focus from trying to control the situation to focusing on our own responses, we find that we can weather the storms of relationship challenges with greater resilience and wisdom. This focus on what is within our control also helps us to develop a deeper sense of self-mastery. Love, when viewed through the Stoic lens, requires us to practice patience, empathy, and self-regulation. We must choose to act thoughtfully, even when emotions run high or when we feel frustrated or hurt. This does not mean suppressing our feelings, but rather acknowledging them, understanding them, and then deciding how to respond in a way that reflects our best selves. Love, in this context, is a conscious choice to rise above the immediate emotional reactions and act in a way that is aligned with our higher purpose. Ultimately, by focusing on what we can control, our actions, our thoughts, and our responses, we transform the nature of our relationships. We no longer place the weight of our happiness on someone else's shoulders, nor do we try to change or manipulate the other person to meet our needs. Instead, we cultivate a love that is grounded in virtue, one that is resilient, enduring, and free from the fluctuations of external events. When we embrace this Stoic perspective, we learn that love is not something that happens to us, but something we choose to practice every day through our actions and decisions, regardless of the circumstances around us. The concept of self-mastery is one of the cornerstones of Stoic philosophy, and it plays a pivotal role in how we approach love. For the Stoics, self-mastery is the ability to control one's emotions, desires, and actions in accordance with reason and virtue, rather than being led by impulsive feelings or external circumstances. This principle is incredibly valuable in the context of relationships, particularly in romantic love. Love, when viewed through the lens of Stoicism, is not simply about surrendering to emotions or responding reactively to the actions of others. It is about mastering oneself, understanding one's emotions, managing impulses, and making conscious choices that align with virtue, even in the heat of passion or the midst of conflict. One of the key insights from Stoic philosophy is that emotions, although natural, are not inherently good or bad. It is our judgments and interpretations of events that give rise to our emotional responses. For example, we may feel anger when we believe that someone has wronged us, or we may feel hurt when we feel neglected or misunderstood. However, the Stoics teach that these emotions are not necessarily reflective of objective reality. They are the result of our own judgments. Therefore, the key to emotional self-mastery is not to suppress emotions, but to understand and reshape the judgments that give rise to them. In a romantic relationship, this means being aware of our emotional responses and questioning whether they are based on rational thought or on assumptions, fears, or insecurities. In love, emotional self-mastery becomes crucial during moments of tension or disagreement. It is easy to be reactive, to lash out when we feel hurt or frustrated, or to retreat when we feel vulnerable. But the Stoics remind us that we always have the power to choose how we respond to these emotions. We can choose to respond with patience, understanding, and a sense of inner calm, even when emotions are running high. This requires the ability to pause, reflect, and choose a course of action that aligns with our highest values, rather than simply reacting in the moment. It is not about denying our feelings or pretending that we do not care. It is about choosing how to express those feelings in a way that reflects maturity and wisdom. Furthermore, self-mastery in love involves the ability to act with integrity and consistency, even when emotions may not be in alignment with our desires. In the initial stages of a relationship, love may feel effortless, as we are swept up in the excitement of discovery and attraction. But as time passes, the novelty fades, and we may encounter moments when the emotional intensity of love begins to wane. It is during these times that self-mastery becomes even more important. The decision to love someone is not merely about following the feelings of passion, but about continuing to choose to act in a loving, supportive way, regardless of how we feel. It means being there for the other person, showing kindness and affection, and investing in the relationship even when the emotional spark seems less intense. The Stoic idea of self-mastery also extends to our desires and attachments. In love, we often develop strong attachments to the idea of how things should be, or to the way we want our partner to behave. These attachments can lead to frustration, disappointment, and even resentment when our expectations are not met. However, the Stoics encourage us to cultivate a sense of detachment, not from our love for the other person, but from the expectations we place on them. Self-mastery in this context means learning to love without clinging to specific outcomes or seeking validation from our partner. It means finding peace in the love we give, regardless of whether we receive what we expect in return. By practicing this detachment, we allow ourselves to experience love more freely and without the burden of unmet expectations. Moreover, self-mastery involves cultivating the ability to forgive, not just others, but ourselves as well. In any relationship, there will be moments of conflict, misunderstanding, and hurt. We may say things we regret or act in ways that we later wish we hadn't. The Stoics teach us that self-mastery includes the ability to forgive others for their mistakes and shortcomings, but also to extend that forgiveness to ourselves. By practicing self-compassion and humility, we can let go of past grievances and focus on moving forward with greater wisdom and understanding. In the broader context of relationships, self-mastery also means taking responsibility for our own happiness. It is easy to fall into the trap of believing that our partner should be the source of our joy, fulfillment, or emotional stability. However, the Stoics remind us that we are responsible for our own inner peace. No one else has the power to control our emotions or dictate our sense of well-being. In love, this means recognizing that while we can share joy and fulfillment with our partner, our happiness should not be dependent on them. We must cultivate our own sense of contentment and emotional balance, so that we are not relying on external circumstances to define our inner state. Ultimately, self-mastery in love is about taking ownership of our emotional and mental well-being. It is about cultivating the ability to choose our responses, to act with integrity, to manage our desires, and to love without attachment or expectation. Through the lens of Stoicism, love becomes not just a spontaneous feeling, but a virtuous practice, one that requires continual effort, mindfulness, and self-awareness. By embracing self-mastery, we transform love from a passive experience into an active, intentional choice that deepens our connection to ourselves and to our partner. In Stoic philosophy, the importance of cultivating resilience cannot be overstated. Resilience is the ability to remain steadfast and composed in the face of adversity, to maintain one's inner peace regardless of external circumstances. In relationships, particularly in romantic ones, challenges are inevitable. There will be moments of tension, misunderstandings, and external pressures that test the strength of the bond. However, resilience, as taught by the Stoics, can transform these challenges into opportunities for growth and deepening the connection between partners. It is through this lens that we can understand love not as a smooth, unbroken flow of emotion, but as a practice that requires enduring strength and the willingness to navigate through difficult times together. One of the core teachings of Stoicism is the concept of *amor fati*, the love of fate. This idea suggests that we should not resist or resent the difficulties that life brings, but instead embrace them as part of the natural order. In relationships, this means acknowledging that hard times, while uncomfortable, are an inevitable part of love. Misunderstandings, disagreements, differences in values, or even external pressures like financial stress or health challenges will arise. These moments of hardship are not signs of failure, but opportunities to practice patience, understanding, and forgiveness. Resilience in love involves accepting that challenges will come, not with dread, but with the mindset of embracing them as opportunities to strengthen the relationship. The Stoic approach to resilience emphasizes the importance of maintaining a sense of emotional detachment from external events. While we cannot control the actions or emotions of others, we can control how we respond. In relationships, this means that we should not let the inevitable ups and downs of love dictate our emotional state or sense of well-being. If our partner is distant, if misunderstandings arise, or if our relationship faces a particularly difficult period, it is important to remember that these challenges are temporary and do not define the entire relationship. Resilience comes from the ability to weather these storms without losing our sense of self, our sense of purpose, or our commitment to love. The Stoics also teach that we should cultivate an inner strength that allows us to maintain our principles and integrity, no matter what happens externally. In the context of love, this means that resilience is not just about enduring difficult circumstances, but about doing so with grace and dignity. It is about staying true to our values, such as kindness, respect, and loyalty, even when our emotions are challenged or when our partner may not be acting in ways we expect. The practice of resilience involves holding firm to these principles, recognizing that external events cannot take away our ability to choose how we act and respond. In moments of difficulty, we can choose to respond with love, even when it feels difficult or uncomfortable. Moreover, resilience in love involves the willingness to learn and grow through challenges. The Stoics believed that adversity, rather than being something to avoid, is an opportunity for personal development. In relationships, this idea is particularly powerful. Every conflict, every misunderstanding, and every moment of tension holds the potential for growth, both as individuals and as a couple. Resilience is not just about enduring hardship, it is about using it as a catalyst for becoming better, both for ourselves and for our partner. This means approaching difficulties with curiosity and an open heart, asking ourselves how we can learn from the situation, how we can communicate better, and how we can evolve together as a couple. Resilience, then, becomes a tool for transformation, not just survival. In addition to this personal resilience, Stoic philosophy also emphasizes the importance of mutual support in relationships. Resilience does not mean that we must endure everything alone. It is about building a sense of shared strength with our partner, working together to navigate difficulties and support each other through hard times. Just as the Stoics believe in the strength of the individual, they also recognize the power of community and mutual support. In love, resilience means that we are not isolated in our struggles, but that we can rely on each other for strength, comfort, and encouragement. A resilient relationship is one in which both partners are committed to lifting each other up during times of difficulty, to offering support without judgment, and to weathering life's challenges together. In romantic relationships, the capacity for resilience is not only about surviving difficult times, but also about maintaining an optimistic outlook on the future. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control the events that happen to us, we can control how we interpret and respond to those events. This ability to reframe challenges as opportunities for growth and development helps to foster a sense of hope and possibility, even in the most difficult of times. Resilience in love, then, is about maintaining hope, commitment, and trust in the relationship, even when things seem uncertain or difficult. It is about recognizing that love is a long-term commitment, not something that is defined by fleeting emotions or temporary challenges. Ultimately, resilience in love, through the Stoic perspective, teaches us that while the external world will inevitably present us with difficulties, we have the inner strength to overcome them. It teaches us that love, when nurtured with resilience, is not fragile or easily broken. It can withstand the test of time and hardship, provided both partners are committed to remaining steadfast in their principles, to supporting each other, and to growing through adversity. By embracing resilience, we learn that love is not just about enjoying the easy moments, but about facing life's challenges together and emerging stronger, more united, and more deeply connected. In conclusion, the Stoic philosophy offers a powerful and transformative approach to love, one that is grounded not in fleeting emotions, but in the deliberate, consistent choices we make every day. Love, when viewed through the lens of Stoicism, becomes a practice, one that requires emotional discipline, self-awareness, and the unwavering commitment to choose our partner, time and again, even in the face of challenges. By cultivating virtues like patience, understanding, and resilience, we free ourselves from the tyranny of uncontrollable emotions and external circumstances, and instead create a foundation for lasting, meaningful connections. The Stoic understanding of love teaches us that it is not something that happens to us, but something we actively shape and nurture through our actions, our choices, and our responses. It is about mastering ourselves, focusing on what we can control, and embracing both the joys and the hardships of relationships with grace and strength. Through this perspective, love becomes not just an experience, but a practice of growth, transformation, and mutual support. Ultimately, by choosing to love with intention, by cultivating emotional resilience, and by committing to continuous personal and mutual growth, we can build relationships that endure the tests of time. Love, in its most profound sense, is not a momentary feeling, but a lifelong journey of shared learning, deep connection, and unwavering commitment. In embracing this Stoic approach, we come to understand that love is not only about passion, but about presence, choice, and the ongoing dedication to the growth and well-being of both ourselves and our partners. And in choosing to love each other every day, we build a relationship that is rooted in virtue, strength, and a profound sense of shared purpose.